Guys, I am back, but my front tooth is not. We lost him earlier this week. That's a long story for another video. Today we're talking about AlexMurdaugh and the conversation I had with a very recently former SCDC sergeant who was also a part of the black team. If you don't know, in South Carolina Department of Corrections, you have a red team, a burgundy team, which are usually more for shakedowns and mass searches of a yard or cell blocks on a yard. And then you have the black team, which is primarily put together for hostage situations, where usually if a officer, a prison guard, gets taken hostage by the inmates, or even if another inmate gets taken hostage by the inmates, they're the ones who come in and respond with firearms. So some very interesting discussions with him today over the phone, and I'm going to focus on what exactly we spoke about concerning AlexMurdaugh, his situation, the fact that he is currently in a protective custody unit of SCDC, and what's going to happen to him. Is he ever going to be able to come off of protective custody? Is he going to have to stay there no matter what, even if he wants to come off? What's going to happen with that? What's the protocol? What's the process? Also, I am not able to reveal the exact identity of this former sergeant for SCDC. He did ask that I keep that private and concealed because he had signed some non-disclosure NDAs, or whatever you call it, before he left. So he would appreciate if I didn't reveal his identity, and I'm going to stick to that promise and not do so. First, I asked, does he have a good bit of insight and information about the whole protective custody unit process and just how that whole thing works for inmates? How does that go? And he said he does. He actually used to work in the protective custody unit for a good portion of his career, and he even kind of said that as a correctional officer, not just him but many others, the worst place to work is the protective custody unit, because yes, you do have your high profile inmates like Murdaugh and the like in there, but mostly that unit is full of pedophiles, child molesters. And he said, we don't want to be around those guys any more than you guys, the inmates, want to be around them. We can't stand it. I hated working in there. But nevertheless, he does have a very good understanding of how that whole thing works when you're talking about PC. So I asked him, why is AlexMurdaugh even in PC in the first place? Which we all kind of know, but I just wanted to start with the beginning. And he confirmed the only reason AlexMurdaugh would be in protective custody is because he has a high-profile case. And as he talked a little more, he brought up how there's actually a lot of transgender inmates who they, regardless of what the inmate wants to do or where they want to be, they'll hold them on protective custody. And I said, well, that kind of brought up the question, so are you saying that regardless of whether or not the inmate, let's say hypothetically AlexMurdaugh, if they want to come off of protective custody, are you saying the SCDC prison staff ultimately can override that and has the final say so to where, hey, no matter what you want, we think you need to stay on protective custody and that's where you're going to stay forever? Is that what you're saying? And he said, well, no, not exactly. He said, technically, they're supposed to be able to hold you. You can be held on SD or DD. SD stands for security detention, and DD stands for disciplinary detention. So you can be up there for a disciplinary reason, or you can be up there because they think it's a security need. And if you're up there for a security reason, which is going to apply to AlexMurdaugh, technically, they're only supposed to be able to hold you for a maximum of 180 days, which equals 6 months, which if you've watched any of my previous videos about AlexMurdaugh, that's exactly what I told you guys. But hey, I'm not here to say I told you so. Every 6 months, these guys who are on protective custody for a security reason go up in front of a review board. They get to the review board, they decide whether it's time to come off or not, and a big part of that decision is made by whether or not the inmate expresses he wants to stay or whether he wants to go into general population. So this former sergeant agrees. If AlexMurdaugh does want to go, he asked me, he said, do you know what he wants to do? Does he want to go back into general population? Does he want to stay on protective custody? And I said, of course, I hadn't talked to the guy myself, but I've talked to several inmates. I even talked to a sergeant who is currently working at the Kirkland prison yard where AlexMurdaugh just left from being evaluated. And she, as well as all the other inmates, have told me Alex is fine. He's not worried. He's not worried about anything. Nobody wants to get him. Nobody cares that he killed these people. There's plenty of guys locked up for killing people in there. There's plenty of murderers. Why do they care that this guy killed somebody? They don't have an issue with that. As long as you didn't sexually, if you didn't molest a child, they don't care. You didn't do anything that's just sickening in their eyes, because, they've probably done something just as bad. And I've said that in other videos. And he agreed. He said, if he wants to go back into population, based off what you're telling me, then yeah, when that 180 days is up, they're going to have to let him go. He said at a certain point, if they try to hold you past that, it becomes a legal issue. Legally, they're not supposed to be able to hold you that long against your will on protective custody if you're only up there for a security reason. Your average inmate compared to AlexMurdaugh, I think he, more than anyone, would be a little more keen on how to legally press the issue if he does want to come off of protective custody and they try to hold him over 180 days. He would probably know how to get some stuff done and get that thing in motion to where they would have to legally put him back into general population, right? And he said, yeah, I would say so. And lastly, we were just kind of chopping it up a bit. We talked about a lot, but if we're talking about just what we discussed on AlexMurdaugh, maybe I'll make another video with all the other things we discussed about prison and corrections officers. But for AlexMurdaugh, as far as what would happen to him if he went into general population, he kind of just told me, hey, like I know, you've been to SCDC. I've worked at SCDC. We know nothing's going to happen to AlexMurdaugh. Even the guys who you think would really get hurt and messed up, at the most, they might get extorted. They might try to extort him. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but they're not going to hurt him. And I said, yeah, that's how I feel too. And that's what the inmates have told me themselves. So all in all, AlexMurdaugh isn't really in any danger. Will he maybe get extorted? Possibly. What would he get extorted for? I don't know. Does he have any money? Sounds like he doesn't. Does a guy like Murdaugh have some money stashed somewhere? Hey, possibly. Maybe no. Who knows? Maybe for some legal stuff. Maybe, if he's able to bring anything to the table, I can guarantee you they're probably going to find a way to use him for that reason. But other than that, AlexMurdaugh is going to be fine. That might not be what you want to hear, might not be what you were hoping for, but he will be fine. But he will go into general population. So there's your answer. That's what he had to say. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it gave you some insight, some information. It's the best update I could bring you right now, but I am working on more. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because I will be back soon with another video.